For months, she fed her husband with poison, believing she was serving justice. But when he collapsed, the truth she discovered shattered her soul forever. It was a quiet Thursday evening when Adunni returned home earlier than expected. She had stepped out to buy pepper and stockfish for dinner, but the woman at the shop had closed early. She grumbled under her breath as she walked into the compound, her keys jingling. Inside the house, the sitting room was unusually quiet. No TV, no music, not even the low hum of Emeka's cough, which had become more frequent in recent weeks. She thought he might be asleep, but something felt off. She walked down the hallway and paused outside their bedroom door. It was slightly open, and that was when she saw it. Kemi, her own younger sister, was inside the room in Emeka's arms, and Kemi's blouse hung loosely, her bra strap sliding down. Adunni's eyes locked onto the scene for a frozen moment. Emeka's eyes were glazed, his head slightly tilted as if confused. Kemi turned, saw her sister and freed herself from him. "Adunni, it's not what you think," Kemi cried, scrambling to adjust her top. Emeka slowly sat on the bed, rubbing his temple, looking like a man who had just woken from a strange dream. "What is going on?" he muttered weakly. But Kemi was faster, her voice cracked with rehearsed panic. He tried to seduce me," she stammered, tears already forming. "I came in to ask him for something, and he said things. Adunni, he tossed me. He said you are too boring, that you are not enough for him." Adunni blinked, her chest tightened, lips parting in disbelief. "What?" "He said you can't give him children," Kemi added, her voice trembling, "that he is just managing you." "Kemi," Emeka said faintly, rubbing his eyes. "What are you saying? Don't you dare pretend," Kemi snapped, standing up now like she had been violated. "You gave me money last week, didn't you? You said I should keep quiet." Adunni turned to Emeka, fury in her eyes. "Is it true? Did you give her money? You called me boring." "Adunni, I don't know what is happening," Emeka said, his voice weak, eyes unfocused. "I was just trying to talk to her. She came to me crying." "Crying?" Adunni caught him. "About what?" "I don't remember," he said, voice trailing. Kemi coughed and began gathering her things. "You see, he can't even keep up with his lies." Adunni's heart beat hard in her chest. Everything inside her was shaking. Rage, humiliation, and pain. This was the man she had sacrificed for, the man she had stood by when he lost his job, when his health started declining, when their dreams of children kept slipping away year after year. And now, this, with her own sister. Later that night, after Kemi had gone into the guest room and Emeka had fallen asleep on the couch without eating, Adunni sat in the kitchen, staring blankly. Her hands trembled as she opened the cupboard under the sink, and there it was, an old plastic container of rat poison they had kept for months, forgotten. She didn't touch it at first, she just stared. Her eyes were dry, but her chest burned. In her mind, Kemi's words repeated like a drum beat. "He said you are boring, that you can't give him children." It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation, the shame, the way Emeka didn't even fight for himself, didn't explain, didn't shout, didn't chase her as she stormed out of the room. He just sat there, confused like a liar caught off guard, or like a man who didn't care anymore. She opened the container, her hand shaking slightly. Not too much, she didn't want him to die suddenly, just enough to make him feel what she was feeling. Slowly, quietly, like heartbreak poisoning the soul. The next morning, she prepared his breakfast as usual, yam and egg sauce. She added a pinch of the white powder. Her face was calm. She placed the plate in front of him without a word and watched him eat. It was the beginning of her revenge, and Emeka didn't even know what he was being punished for. From that day onward, Adunni became a different woman. Each morning, she woke up earlier than usual. She would quietly step into the kitchen, boil water, and prepare Emeka's meals with a precision that almost looked like love. She even began adding fresh fruit to his tray and garnished his foods with parsley. It looked beautiful, it smelled inviting, but only Adunni knew that a small pinch of the white powder went into every meal she served him. At first, it was just a dash, just enough to upset his stomach. She didn't want to go too fast. She wanted him to suffer gradually. She wanted him to feel weak, powerless, uncertain, just like she had felt standing outside the bedroom door. By the end of the first week, Emeka had started to complain of headaches. "Maybe you've been working too much," Adunni said calmly. "My body just feels off," he murmured that night, holding his head. "It's like, I don't know, tired. I'm nauseous. It is not normal." "Go to the hospital then," she replied, eyes blank. "Check yourself." Emeka shook his head. "Doctors always find something. I don't want any bad news right now." "Suit yourself," she said, walking away. What Adunni didn't know, what even Emeka hadn't accepted, was that these weren't just symptoms of poison. His health had been quietly deteriorating for months. He had been ignoring the signs: night sweats, weight loss, and fatigue. Deep down, he feared what the hospital visit would reveal. So, he did what many men in his shoes would do. He told himself it would pass. And Adunni, she mistook his refusal for guilt. To the world, she looked like the model wife. One day, Kemi came over with groceries, gave her hugs and whispered, "You are strong, Adunni. I don't know how you managed to care for him after everything he did." She sat beside Adunni on the front porch, her voice low and venomous. "You know what I heard?" Kemi said, pretending to hesitate. "Your husband has a second phone. I saw him talking late one night on the street. He laughed so much. Definitely wasn't work." Adunni nodded, her face hardening like stone. Every word was a match thrown on dry grass. Her heart, already bitter, grew colder. Meanwhile, Emeka, oblivious to the poison, began to notice the shift in his wife. Her silence, her stiffness, the way she served him food without looking him in the eye, how she never asked how his day went anymore. It confused him, so he tried harder. He started calling her my queen again. He bought her a necklace from a roadside vendor. He rubbed her feet at night when she let him. On one occasion, he even cooked for her, poorly but with love. But Adunni didn't see this effort. She saw guilt. She saw a manipulator trying to buy peace with empty gestures. And so, the poison doses increased. She added it to his ogi, to his tea, to his rice. She even stirred it into his Sunday jollof, the one he used to brag about to his friends. His condition worsened. He slept more. He vomited once in the sink. His hands sometimes trembled. One morning, he dropped a glass cup. When it shattered, he just stood there staring at the pieces like he couldn't figure out what to do next. "Maybe you are just getting old," Adunni muttered as he swept up the shards. The neighbors noticed too, but not the truth. They admired her. "Ah, Adunni, God will bless you," one woman said after seeing her help Emeka into their car one afternoon. "You are still cooking for him like this? You are a real wife." She smiled, a tight, empty smile. Only Kemi knew the real story, or at least the version she had crafted, and she delighted in watching the home crumble. She came over often to comment on Emeka's pale skin, his thin arms. "He's drying up like bitter leaf," she whispered once. "Soon you will be free." Adunni said nothing, but inside, a dark satisfaction coiled itself inside her like blankets. By the third week, Emeka could barely walk without assistance. His knees buckled one morning on the way back from the bedroom. He fell. Adunni didn't rush to help immediately. She stood there, watching him crawl to the door. "Do you want to go to the hospital now?" he asked flatly. He coughed, nodded faintly, but by the time she returned from getting her shoes, he had curled up on the rug into the room, asleep from exhaustion. She didn't wake him. In her mind, the punishment was still ongoing. She hadn't gotten her full revenge. She didn't realize that by now she wasn't poisoning a cheat. She was slowly killing a dying man. The days grew longer, and Emeka's body thinner. The strong man Adunni once knew, the one who lifted her effortlessly during their wedding dance, was now a shell. His cheeks were hollow, his steps unsteady, and his once confident voice trembled when he spoke. He could barely hold down food. His skin had taken on a sickly hue. The headaches had become unbearable. He had begun coughing in fits that left him breathless. Still, Adunni didn't stop. Every meal was laced with a little more than the last, and yet every time she set it straight down with her soft forced smile, Emeka would look up at her with his soft, grateful eyes. "You are too good to me, Adunni," he had said one day with a weak laugh. "I don't deserve you." That line stung. It stung more than his alleged betrayal, but she never let it show. Meanwhile, Kemi had become distant, once always around with her sly comments and fake concern. She now made excuses to stay away. "Work has been hectic," she said, but Adunni could feel it. Kemi was hiding. The lies were catching up. Then one afternoon, Adunni's mother showed up unannounced. She took one look at Emeka lying on the couch like a man already halfway in the grave, and she gasped, "Jesu Adunni, this man will die in this house, oh. Is this how you are caring for him?" Adunni tried to explain something about him refusing treatment, but Mama wasn't having it. She insisted they go to the hospital immediately. Emeka, too weak to argue, simply nodded. The hospital was quiet. The nurses were kind. They drew blood, asked questions. The doctor examined Emeka and ordered a few tests. "We will get the results back in a few days," he said calmly. Adunni's heart sank. She stared at the doctor's notepad, wondering what would happen if the lab picked up on the poison. What if they found traces of rat powder? What if Emeka mentioned something odd? Some food, some behavior? The fear dug deep in her chest that night. Her hands trembled as she scrubbed the dishes, and when she opened the cupboard, she saw the familiar canister tucked behind the cleaning supplies. She stared at it for a long time, then slowly, she reached for it. If the test came back and they found anything, it would be over. Her marriage, her freedom, her name. Even her own mother would disown her, and Kemi, she would disappear. She always did when things got hot. So she made a decision. One final dose, a little heavier than usual, enough to end it quickly. No results, no suspicions, just grief. People would assume cancer. After all, his symptoms had been there before. Headaches, weight loss, fatigue. It would make sense. Very early the next morning as usual, she cooked in silence. Her hands moved automatically, seasoning the stew, boiling the rice, but her mind was screaming. Emeka had begun saying strange things. Earlier, while she helped him sit up, he grabbed her hand. "Adunni," he whispered, his eyes glassy. "I need to tell you something before it's too late." She froze, but then he drifted off again, exhausted. That was the second time that week he had tried to confess something. Each time, she dismissed it as manipulation, a dying man trying to control the narrative. But what if? What if it wasn't? She remembered the way he had smiled when she brought him water, the way he tried to sit up straight when she entered the room, even though his body trembled. The way he looked at her, not like a man hiding something, but like a man begging to be seen. And then Kemi's voice echoed in her head. "He said you are boring, that you can't give him children." Adunni winced. She remembered how Emeka had hugged her tightly the day they got the test results confirming her fertility issues. He hadn't blamed her. In fact, he had told her he still wanted her, just her. "Children or not," he said, "you are my family." So then, why would he say something like that to Kemi? Why would he? Her head spun. Was it all a lie? Had Kemi set this in motion? Had she, Adunni, been poisoning an innocent man? The pot on the stove began to boil over. She jolted and turned off the heat. Her hands trembled as she reached for his plate. The poison portion was ready. It sat on the counter in a clean white bowl, steaming, smelling perfectly. She stood there staring at it, turned, confused, terrified, and yet she picked it up. Whatever the truth was, her decision had already taken form. The poison was already in the food. It was too late to undo, too late to reverse. Her fingers clutched the edge of the tray as she walked slowly toward the bedroom. Adunni stood by the kitchen door that morning, watching her husband, Emeka, eat the steaming bowl of rice and pepper soup she had carefully prepared. She had stirred it slowly, made sure the meat was soft, just how he liked it. But hidden inside was the largest dose of poison she had ever used. Her heart beat fast. Her hands were cold. Emeka, now thinner than ever, smiled at her weakly. "This is good," he said, coughing a little after each spoonful. "You have always known how to cook, Adunni." Adunni didn't smile back. She nodded, pretending to check the pot behind her. She couldn't look him in the eye, not this time. Hours later, the screaming started. Emeka collapsed on the floor of their bedroom, shaking, his body convulsing like it was fighting itself. Foam gathered at the corners of his mouth. Adunni panicked. She didn't expect it to be this bad, this fast. She screamed for help, her voice cracking. Neighbors rushed in. Someone called an ambulance. At the hospital, the doctors walked fast, rushing Emeka into emergency care. Adunni sat outside, her mind spinning. She had killed him, she was very sure of it. A few minutes later, the doctor stepped out and called her name. His face was serious. "Madam," he began quietly, "we need to talk." Adunni followed him into a small office. He closed the door gently behind them and sat across from her. "I need you to know something important," the doctor said. "We got the test results back from the last visit." Adunni frowned. "What tests?" "Your husband came in a few days ago," the doctor explained. "We ran scans. He has advanced stomach cancer, stage 4. It had already spread. There was nothing we could do." Adunni blinked. "What?" "He asked us not to tell you. Said he didn't want to worry you. Said he wanted to spend his last days in peace." Adunni's mouth went dry. Her stomach twisted. She shook her head slowly, as if that would undo what she had just heard. But the doctor wasn't finished yet. "There is something else," the doctor continued. "Earlier this month, your husband spoke to me about your sister Kemi." Adunni's heart stopped. He told me Kemi had come to him in tears, pretending she was going through something. He said he only hugged her to comfort her. That was all. But later, she twisted the story to make it look bad. Adunni's mouth went dry. "He told me he never touched her in any wrong way. He didn't have a relationship with her. He said he was worried she was lying to you, and he was hoping you would hear the truth from him when the time was right." The doctor sighed. "He didn't want you to carry the pain of his illness and the family problem at the same time. That is why he kept quiet." Adunni stared at the floor, her ears ringing. So Kemi had lied about everything. The day she walked in and found them in the bedroom, Emeka had been comforting Kemi, but Kemi had twisted the whole story. She had planted evidence. She had whispered poison into Adunni's ears. "He said you are boring. He said you can't give him children." All lies. And Emeka, he had been sick, dying, and yet, through all the pain, he had tried to protect her, still tried to love her, still tried to tell her the truth. Tears rolled down Adunni's cheeks. Her knees felt weak. She had poisoned a dying man, a man who loved her, a man who was trying to protect her from her own sister's wickedness. The truth hit her like a hammer to the chest. She hadn't just made a mistake, she had ended the life of the only man who truly cared for her. And the worst part, he had planned to tell her everything about the cancer, about Kemi, and about how much he still loved her. But now, it was too late because few minutes later, the doctor's phone rang from the emergency unit. The silence in the hospital was heavy when the doctor came out. Adunni stood up quickly, her hands shaking, hoping for good news. But the doctor didn't speak for a few seconds. Then softly, he said the words that ended her world. "I'm sorry, your husband didn't make it." Adunni's knees gave way. She sank to the cold hospital bench, her eyes wide, her mouth open, but no sound came out. Tears poured down her cheeks, not just from grief, but from guilt. He was dead. It was her fault. The doctor sat in front of her. He looked troubled, like something was weighing on his mind. "There's something I need to tell you," he said gently. "In our final test, we found something strange." Adunni looked up slowly, afraid to hear more. There were traces of poison in his system. Adunni froze. She didn't try to lie. She didn't pretend to be shocked. Instead, her lips trembled as she whispered, "I did it." The doctor's eyes widened. What? You poisoned him? I thought he cheated on me. I thought he didn't love me anymore, she said, her voice shaking. My sister told me lies. I believed her. I didn't know he was sick. I didn't know the truth. The doctor rubbed his forehead. He looked torn. I wasn't supposed to tell anyone this, Adunni said quietly. Please, I'm begging you. The doctor was silent. He had taken an oath to save lives, not to send people to jail. But the man was dead, and now he had to choose between mercy and justice. In the end, he chose the truth. The hospital filed the report, the police got involved, and Adunni's nightmare became real. The investigation began. She was arrested and questioned. Neighbors watched from their windows as the police took her away. Whispers spread like wildfire across the neighborhood. Killed her husband? But why? She always looked quiet. The whole community was in shock. When the news reached Kemi, she tried to run. She booked a cheap flight, packed in a rush, but the police caught her at the local airport. At first, Kemi denied everything, but when they showed her phone records and messages, she broke. Yes, she admitted, I lied. I made her believe he was cheating. I made up everything. Why? The investigating officer asked. I was jealous, Kemi said, her voice low. He picked her. He loved her. I wanted to destroy that. Her words stunned everyone. Our jealousy had broken two lives. Adunni's mother, who had defended Kemi all her life, broke down when she heard the truth. She wailed and cursed the day she allowed lies to grow under her roof. My daughters, going to prison. She cried. How did we get here? As the case unfolded, the police found something unexpected in Emeka's drawer. A sealed brown envelope marked with Adunni's name. Inside it was a letter. It was his farewell message. My darling wife, it began. By the time you read this, you will know I am dying. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. I wanted to protect you from Kemi's lies and spare you this pain. I knew what she was doing. No matter what happens, I want you to know I love you. I have always loved you and I forgive you, even if you don't forgive yourself. Adunni wept as she read it in her prison cell. She held the paper close to her chest, shaking it with pain. The letter could help reduce her sentence, but it couldn't reduce her guilt. She had poisoned the man who loved her more than life itself. She didn't fight the court's decision. She pled guilty to manslaughter. Adunni was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Kemi was charged with fraud and manipulation. She got a lighter sentence, but nothing could clean the stain of what she had done. Years passed when Adunni was finally released. She was no longer the same woman. Her eyes held sadness that time couldn't wash away. She went straight to the cemetery. There, under a small tree, was Emeka's grave. The stone was simple, just his name, birth and death date. She knelt beside it, opened the old letter and read it out aloud. My darling wife. Tears ran down her eyes. I destroyed the only man who truly loved me, she whispered. And now, I have to live with that. She placed the letter on the grave and rested her head on the stone. She didn't know how to forgive herself, but she promised never to forget the lesson, that sometimes the people trying to help you may look like enemies, and the ones hurting us can wear the face of family.